Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, the home of slightly above average FPL video content. If you like what you see today, please consider sticking around and maybe even ding my little bell for notifications and you can become a mate. It's time for that double Game Week 29 preview video and we will be covering some transfer targets for this week and beyond, some weekly topics including a double Game Week 29 strategy, a blank Game Week 31 strategy, looking at the best attackers in FPL and maybe some templates, and finally we'll be looking at the best captaincy options for Game Week 29. So let's get straight into the watch list. First up, I've got Aubameyang, and I think this is pretty obvious why. In this double game week, I think Aubameyang is the most desirable player of the lot. Looking at the face of it, we have the second highest scoring striker on the game against one of the worst defences in the league, and then he also gets a cheeky bonus midweek game after that. His fixtures after that game aren't so bad either, with games against Brighton and Norwich either side of the blank. So although it feels like a 1 week punt in many respects, there is some logic in holding him too, so it's not such a bad shout in that regard. Aubameyang is Arsenal's captain and best player, and if he's fit, you'd expect him to start every game, so you don't need to worry about him being rotated, as you often do with these double game weeks. He's well rested, he didn't play last game week, and he was rested for the FA Cup game against Portsmouth as well. He scored 6 goals in his last 7 games and has averaged an impressive 6 points per game throughout the entire season. His expected goals are just over a goal every other match, and with his quality, you expect him to surpass that stat as well. In Aubameyang's last game against Everton, back in Game Week 27, he scored a lovely 13-pointer, scoring twice and taking home all of the bonus points too. The game before that, he got a still impressive 8 points with 1 goal and 2 bonus points. So we can say the man is in form, he has a double game week, and I think you've got to bring him in if you can make it work, that is, even if it means taking a -4 for it. Next up, it's Jota, and another attacker, but you know, he's a really good option. Jota has absolutely smashed it for 2 weeks in a row, playing in 2 different positions with back-to-back double-digit hauls of 18 and 12 in those last 2 games. There are many reasons to start picking up Wolves assets at the moment. They're in great form, they're playing really well, certain players are picking up loads of FPL points, and their list of favourable fixtures continue right until the end of the season. Oh, and as an added bonus, they're one of the few teams who will actually be playing in Game Week 31. So if you hope to field a full 11 that week, or as close to it as you can get without spending any chips, it might be time to triple up on Wolves. And Jota should probably be one of those 3. At 6.3 million, Jota offers a lot of value, a hell of a lot of value. Looking at his history this year, it seems he's only capable of either absolutely banging or doing nothing. There seems to be no happy medium. And we also know that Jota is a bit of a streaky player. He'll get loads of goals and assists perhaps in a burst and then go quiet for a while. And we're definitely in one of his streaks right now, so you'll want to own him for this. The stats back it up too, and in his last 4 games, his expected goals was 2.68. During that period, he's had 12 shots on goal, 11 of those inside the box, and 5 big chances too. He scored 3 of those big chances. He also has had 2 assists in the last 2, which is a lovely little bonus. And he has been in form in the Europa League as well, so he scored a hat-trick against Espanyol in the competition just a couple of weeks ago. Of course, he's preferred if he starts at a striker, but he has now also proven he can do it on the wing. Jota is a great cheap striker for you to capitalise on his form. Finally, we have Bruno Fernandes, another player who is just impossible to ignore based on recent performances. He's come into this United side and completely changed them. He's clearly their best player and they're clearly building around him. Forget Martial, for a little bit more budget you can get this beast in. 2 assists and 2 Premier League goals since he joined Manchester United, and during this time he's played 44 passes into the box. That's more than any other player during this period. It's better than KDB, who has recorded just 41, a few fewer. Back-to-back double-figure hauls with 14 points and 10 points in his last 2, and he's got set pieces on lockdown too. He's a player that really passes the eye test, and he's very exciting to watch and to own in FPL. In the very short term, his fixtures look kind of rubbish, so you'll sort of have to rely on form over fixture mentality for a few weeks. Though saying that, I don't think that Spurs fixture is that bad anymore. But after that, Man United do have a really nice run of fixtures right till the very end of the season. So if you're brave enough to jump on Fernandes now, you'll be certainly rewarded in the longer term. He's probably the best option at his price point currently, and I think I'd take him over Richarlison in a heartbeat, but maybe you'd rather take a punt on Pepe this week, given the double game week. But right now, all I'm worried about is missing out on Bruno, and I'd rather get him now before his price rockets, his ownership rockets even more than it already has. And I can honestly see Bruno being a 10 million plus player next season, no doubt about it. So this season is a good time to get him at a really good value. So, it has been announced that we have a double game week this week. This is due to the game between Manchester City and Arsenal being rescheduled to Wednesday the 11th of March. So, for those two teams, they'll be playing twice, once the weekend and then again against each other on Wednesday. Manchester City's fixtures during game week 29 will be against Manchester United away and then Arsenal at home. And Arsenal's fixtures during game week 29 will be against West Ham at home and then Man City away. So Man City on paper have the tougher fixtures, whereby Arsenal already have a really good fixture and sort of a tough fixture after that as a little bonus. So when buying Arsenal players for this game week, I would really recommend looking at it in the terms of, yes, the players might get points against West Ham, and then anything after that against Man City is just a bonus. You've got that lovely guaranteed 2 extra points if your player plays the full 90, plays 60 or more minutes for each of the 2 games, and then literally anything after that is just a bonus. Man City are a little bit more worrying, however, as not only are these 2 tough games on paper, but you'd expect the majority of the first team to be rotated. And it'll almost be treated as if a double game week never happened, because a lot of those players will just play one of the games or maybe part of one game and full of the other or something like that. I guess with Man City double game week, it's more of a confidence booster that your player will play in at least one of those games, which is a confidence we don't usually have, to be fair, due to the Pep's lucky wheel of rotation. So if you're bringing in Man City players, don't do it with the expectation that they'll play the full 90 in both games. They just won't. City could score a few against Arsenal, but United away could be trickier, as they have conceded just 0.57 goals per game since the start of 2020. So who are the players worth bringing in for this double? Well, we have KDB, if you don't already have him, and if he's declared fit, of course. He actually has a shoulder injury at the moment, so we don't even know if he'll play the first game against Manchester United. If he is fit, he is one of the few Man City players who you'd expect to play in both games. We have Aubameyang for Arsenal, who I mentioned earlier in the video. He'll play in both games, barring injury. He's likely to nick a goal or 2 against West Ham, you'd say. And then even if it's just a 2-point extra against City, that's okay. We don't expect any more. And then you can just hope that he perhaps nicks a goal. We know he's capable of it. We have Saka, who is fantastically priced, likely to play in both games in an advanced left-back role. He's more than capable of getting an assist or 2, maybe even a goal if you're doing it over 2 games. And then after that, honestly, I don't think there's a single player other than those 3 who I'd break my back to get in my team. Those are the only 3 I think are going to have any significant impact over the 2 games that you actually wouldn't mind keeping on after that. Because remember, when you buy these players in, you've got to keep them. There are other players who could be a nice punt. You probably would want to move them on after, to be honest. Maybe a Pepe, or take a gamble on Nketiah. You could bring in Mahrez, safe in the knowledge he's guaranteed some minutes rather than being his usual risky self. You never really know what you're going to get with Mahrez in regards to whether he's going to play or not. Aguero, you'd probably keep if you already had him, but I don't think I'd favour him over Aubameyang at a similar price point. And then after that, I'm not sure there really is anything. Avoid Arsenal defence, as statistically, they're rubbish, and you would expect them to concede in both games. They have an 8.56 expected goals conceded in the past 4, which is woeful. That's over 2 goals expected to be conceded per game. Avoid City defence just because they're way too expensive, and you wouldn't want to keep them in the long term. So you don't want to get stuck with them. Their best defender anyway is Laporte, and he's out, so that could impact things as well. And then honestly, after that, they have a lot of cover in fullbacks, so those positions could be rotated. Honestly, if you've got Alba, KDB and Saka, then that is more than enough to cover you for the double. Anything else is a bonus, but like I said, I wouldn't rip up your team to get them in. It's just not worth it. So now all the FA Cup fixtures have been played for this round. We know which teams are going to be involved in the next round and therefore miss out on game week 31. So for simplicity's sake, there will be just 4 games of football in Game Week 31, and the remaining 12 football teams will blank. The 4 games are Liverpool versus Crystal Palace, Wolves versus Bournemouth, Burnley versus Watford, and Tottenham versus West Ham. The 12 teams who will not play Game Week 31 are Arsenal, Aston Villa, Brighton, Chelsea, Everton, Leicester, Man City, Man United, Newcastle, Norwich, Sheffield United, and Southampton. This means that we'll have a very small pool of players to pick from in Game Week 31, so if you do still have your free hit, you should strongly consider using it here. If you don't want to play it, or you can't play it, perhaps you've already used it, then you pretty much need to exclusively bring in players from those 4 fixtures, even if it means taking a hit. Players you can bring in could be Nick Pope and Taylor of Burnley, maybe an Ali or Bergwijn from Spurs, obviously the high-scoring Wolves guys, and make sure you are tripled up on Liverpool assets too. There's also Sarr of Watford, who's looking fantastic as a cheap midfield option, but as I say, the options are limited. If you can get 8 or 9 players, that should be enough to get you perhaps an average score and hold your rank in this game week. If, on the other hand, you plan on free hitting during this game week, you should pretty much do the opposite. You should pretty much exclusively buy players who won't be playing here, so you have them ready for their eventual double game weeks. Or, if you can prepare to wildcard in game week 32, you can reset your team to something more balanced. The only exception to this, I would say, is Wolves players who just have a lovely run of fixtures. They're playing well, so they're so worth bringing in. I'm really enjoying Wolves players at the moment. So whatever your personal situation, make sure you're at least aware of what is going to happen in Game Week 31 and have a rough idea on how you're going to deal with it. It's time to make a plan. It's time to think about it before it's too late and you'll end up being flustered and it all goes to pot. So I've spoken a bit before on this channel about the forward template I quite like of Jimenez, Ings and Calvert-Lewin. For most people, I think you can also add Vardy to that list, maybe with Abraham, Firmino, Aguero, Aubameyang for the premium options. I think I might have spoken a little bit too soon, especially with Ings, and I think a few of those templatey forwards actually probably need to go. Ings has scored just 1 goal in his last 6 game weeks. Vardy hasn't scored since 2019. Firmino seems to have gone off the boil completely, despite getting chances. And Abraham, who was just wasteful at the best of times, is now injured as well. So I think if you've got any of those players, it might be time to move them on. Aubameyang is a player you should definitely attempt to bring in this game week for the double. So if you have Vardy, Firmino, or even Aguero, Aubameyang should be easy to get to. I think I personally have to move on Danny Ings. And even if you can't get Aubameyang, there are other options. So maybe you can move to Jota, even if that means doubling up with Jimenez. I think that could prove a really lethal strike partnership, doubling up on those Wolves attackers, and a fantastic differential too. Then if you need a striker who plays in Game Week 31, you could go for Deeney perhaps instead, who is a great option to bring in. Maybe you want to go for Giroud, since he looks nailed up front for Chelsea at the moment, and they have some good fixtures coming up, and he is also getting those points on the board as well, and he's relatively cheap for playing for a top 4 team. So if you've got a spare transfer knocking around, or on a wild card, it could be time to smash the forward template and use this as an opportunity to boost yourself up the ranks. I just wanted to do a really quick note on my general musings regarding that. But anyway, it is time for the most important decision of your week, and that is captaincy. I think your best captaincy option this week is Aubameyang. I haven't shut up about him all video, so I'm sure this won't come as too much of a surprise to you. But with KDB's fitness concerns, the rest of Man City's team is subject to rotation risk, and they're not really being any other big hitting options at Arsenal, barring maybe Pepe. It just seems really obvious for me to captain Aubameyang. He's by far the standout player of all the double game week players. As I said earlier, it's genuinely probably worth taking a -4 to get him in this week. West Ham concede goals, a lot of goals, so honestly he would be a great captaincy shout, even if it wasn't for the double and he was just doing 1 game. He'll be playing on the left side of the Arsenal attack, matched up against either the inexperienced West Ham right back Ngakia or the experienced but painfully slow right back Zabaleta. So you'd expect him to have an absolute field day in that game alone. And then you've got the guaranteed 2-pointer from City, double it to 4, and maybe hope for a cheeky goal, but don't expect it. Remember, Man City are one of the best defensive teams in the league, with 3 clean sheets in the last 4, and even that 1 non-clean sheet was to the incredibly fluky defeat to Spurs, if you remember that game. I'm pretty much expecting a score of over 10 for Aubameyang, and if we get lucky, we could get closer to 20 if he continues his form from the past few games. That's the exact kind of profile we're looking at for a captain, so for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. Add to that, a lot of people won't be going for him as captain, either because they don't have him, or they will fall into the trap of Man City, forgetting the rotation, or perhaps they'll take a punt on KDB's fitness in exchange for who's probably the better player. I think Aubameyang captainers will be rewarded, and I think there's even a shout, a very, very small shout for a triple captain this week. There's no way I'm doing it, but if you're doing it, I'm not going to judge you. Next up, Salah, and now out of all of the individual fixtures this game week, this matchup looks the most favourable. Yes, Liverpool have blips against Watford and even in the FA Cup against Chelsea, but you'd be a fool if you thought this was a permanent thing. Bournemouth are still a great team to target for captaincy with an expected 8.85 goals conceded in their last 4 games and an actual goals conceded of 8 in 4. They're once again recognised as being one of the weaker defensive teams, and so this is a great fixture for Liverpool to bounce back on. I've gone for Salah over Mane with some confidence this game week, to be fair. Salah was rested in the FA Cup midweek whilst Mane started the game. This would suggest that if someone's getting rested or someone's not going to play the full 90, it's going to be Mane and not Salah. And I think we're probably entering the realm of rotation for Liverpool now, as they've all but won the league and Champions League games are coming thick and fast. We do have the advantage, of course, of Liverpool versus Bournemouth being the early fixture on Saturday, so we can leave the captaincy pick nice and late. We can wait for some team news and see who's actually playing and who isn't. Salah is definitely a player who can easily outscore a player playing in 2 games, even if he's playing in just 1. So I honestly wouldn't let the fact that he's not playing twice put you off. I wouldn't really rate Aguero, Pepe, Mahrez above Salah this week for captaincy, I don't think. I think those choices are actually more risky to go for Salah. The game against Watford has skewed stats a little bit because Salah and the rest of the team did look poor. There is some suggestion that Liverpool just aren't as good without Henderson, but come on, this is Liverpool and this is Bournemouth. And if you can't or don't want to get Aubameyang, I'd say just don't overthink it. Go for Salah, nice and easy. Finally, it's KDB, and with a very, very large asterisk next to it. So if you quite fancy KDB over the double game week, I wouldn't blame you at all. But Pep Guardiola has come out and said that he could be out for the United game on Sunday with his shoulder injury. Monitor this news and hopefully we can get a definitive answer. But aside from that, KDB is obviously a great option. I know the 2 games look tough on paper, but as I said earlier, Arsenal are expected to concede plenty of goals. And that game, KDB should be back fit for that Arsenal game. And in their last matchup, in game week 17, De Bruyne scored a magnificent 19 points against Arsenal with 2 goals and an assist. This 19 points is actually his record points in a single game week this year, and we know he's had plenty of double-figure hauls, 7 in fact, which is better than 1 double-figure haul every 4 games over the whole season, including games where he's not played. So double the odds due to the double game week, and we can guess that KDB could have a 50-50 chance of scoring more than 10 points if he plays in both games. I mean, this is very rubbish maths, but Man City do have 4 games in the next 12 game weeks, so you know there could be some rotation even if he is fit. But the maths in my head at least says that you've got a good chance of a 10-point out. I mean, if he does play those both games. Manchester United could be a bit of a tricky game given their improved defensive record. But it is a derby game, and usually stats go out the window for these games. So whilst I would say before the injury that KDB is the safe pick, I think taking in all factors, KDB has now become the risky pick. I'm not going to go near KDB for captaincy this week unless I hear some revolutionary fitness news. If we do get an update, everything could change, and it could genuinely rocket him to becoming the best option for this game week. But until then, I've got to put him down as the 3rd best option. So that's all I have to say in the run-up to Game Week 29. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you so much for all the support recently. I recently hit 100 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. I didn't expect to hit this milestone so soon after creating this channel, so I do wonder where we can get to before the start of next season. But anyway, good luck to everyone this double game week. I hope you all smash it. Let me know what your transfer and captaincy plans are this week, and I hope to see you on the next one. See you later, mates.